Forward. Let's bring in retired U.S. Army General Wesley Clark. He's a CNN contributor, the former NATO Supreme Allied Commander. Does that make sense to you, what General Ham just said, that the U.S. is not working with the opposition? We know the president only the other day announced there would be a representative to the opposition. The Secretary of State in Paris met with an opposition leader. There are Americans who deal with the opposition on a day-to-day basis. Is he just being precise that there's no military representatives dealing with the opposition? Is that what you're hearing?
That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that the military operation is strictly in line with exactly the mandate that came out of the United Nations.
Well, that's the military operation, but you know there are plenty of U.S. civilians who work for the United States government, whether the intelligence community or contractors who are not necessarily military, that they can do all sorts of other things right now. Isn't that right?
That's true. And presumably there are NGOs in there, and there are other people. There's a Libyan opposition group in Washington, in fact, and several other members of the former Libyan royal family, for example, who are deeply engaged in this. They're receiving all kinds of information, and whether and what the assistance is, of course, we don't know. It's one of those questions I think the public would like to know. But, you know, there's a gap between what the UN Security Council resolution says and what now the enunciated U.S. policy is. The policy says Gaddafi has to go. The UN Security Council resolution doesn't say that. And so the U.S. military is very technical, very legal, very much in accordance with the mandate of the UN Security Council.
So even hypothetically, special operations commandos, Green Beret forces, U.S. military personnel, they can't participate in this on the ground? Is that what you're saying? They're that technical?
Well, I'm saying that not under the U.S. chain of command they can't. Now, there is a separate procedure for presidential finding, and if that were to be done, we would never know about it. This is a so-called covert action, and that doesn't have to be bound by the UN Security Council. But and there have been reports of SAS troops in on the ground, obviously Brits following that procedure. We don't know about it right now, if there are any U.S. covert operatives in there. That's a decision the president's going to have to make, and we might not know for months or years.
There's a little confusion in my mind when the U.S. will actually hand over authority to someone else. When General Ham, for example, and I assume you know General Carter Ham, when he relinquishes the leadership and gives it to some French general or British admiral or someone like that, supposedly within days, the president today said several days. Others are saying to me, not so fast, this could take a while.
Well, there's some agreements that have to be worked out. There is a European Union command and control capacity. Maybe they could invoke that. Does it have all the technical means, and does it need U.S. national technical means directly fed into it? If it does, there's a problem there. And so exactly what the mission is of the force after the United States hands over command and control, all that has to be agreed. Right now, I believe, from what I'm hearing, behind the scenes, that there's still discussion going on in NATO. Turkey's concerned because they have guest workers in Libya. They don't know what the impact on those Turks would be that haven't been evacuated if Turkey were to side with NATO and, say, use NATO command and control. So these issues are ongoing and in discussion right now.
The Arab League wanted a no-fly zone. They endorsed the no-fly zone unanimously. Even Syria voted for it. But now most of those Arab League countries, they're MIA. They're missing in action. Qatar is going to maybe send a plane or two. UAE does some humanitarian assistance. Are you disappointed that the Arab countries, even those friendliest with the United States, Britain and France, are sort of moving to the sidelines?
Absolutely disappointed, but not surprised. They don't have the legitimacy and their own political systems aren't such that it's easy for them to make these kinds of decisions and then live with the consequences of it, because this decision is a decision that could entail a very long-term operation. It could be very damaging. For example, Wolf, I was reading, and this is all public reports, that Ban Ki-moon, the UN Secretary General, was in Cairo and he was accosted by a Libyan mob. I don't think that was a spontaneous Libyan mob. Gaddafi runs a dictatorship. It's a totalitarian regime, and he's got a long reach. So there's problems there for these states if they go against Gaddafi. They're looking at it, trying to figure out what to do.
He's got a history of reaching outside of Libya over many years. We all remember the Lockerbie bombing, Pan Am Flight 103. General, thanks very much.
Thank you, Wolf.